Thank you, gentlemen. Our special guest speaker today is Lieutenant Commander Robert Weidman, who is retired from the U.S. Navy. Commander Weidman moved to Colorado to be near his 2 sons and 6 grandchildren who all live in Fort Collins. He was shot down over North Vietnam and served as a prisoner of war in a Hanoi prison. Following his retirement from the Navy, he attended law school and practiced law in the states of Florida and Mississippi. Please join me in welcoming Commander Robert Weidman.
I'm really glad we got this thing working. On May the 6th, 1967, I rolled in on a target over North Vietnam, and what a beautiful day. No clouds, unlimited visibility. You could see the ship's wake in the Tonkin Gulf. The plane's navigation system said 100 miles. I didn't think you could see that far. No enemy defenses, no MiGs, no SAMs, no AAA. This was a milk run. I'd done this 134 times before. My mind was already in the ship's landing pattern. We rolled in at 11,000 feet, and as we rolled out, I felt a metallic click, and the plane kept on rolling. The stick was all the way to the left. I couldn't get it back. There's a couple things I did. I cleaned the wing racks off, turned off the yaw dampener. Then I saw 6,000 feet go by. Well, at those dive angles and air speeds, if you're not out by 6,000 feet, you won't make it. So I pulled the face curtain, heard the wind, and then it felt like someone hit me in the head with a baseball bat. I saw stars. And then I was just trying to hold myself together. I could see the blue of the sky, the ground, the sky, the ground. And then the parachute opened suddenly. I felt nothing. It was just amazing. I had 2 arms, 2 legs, had a head, and the most important thing, I was still alive. Well, I had a couple radios. I pulled one out and started to make some transmissions, and then I heard a whistling sound go by me, and so I just curled up in a ball trying to protect my head and my heart. One farmer down there took a pot shot at me, and it would have been nice to know then that once you hear that whistling sound, that round is already past you. I didn't find that out for about 3 more years. Well, then I started hearing noise on the ground, and it was time to land. You start hearing noise on the ground, you're about 500 feet. And the parachute people, they say, well, you want to land going forward or sideways. You don't want to go forwards or backwards. Well, we had a crosswind about 25 knots that day. And you guessed it, I landed going backwards. And I hit the side of a trench, and it hurt. Well, the parachute people will tell you, oh, landing in a parachute, that's just like jumping off a 12-foot fence. You go jump off a 12-foot fence. It hurts, and it hurts a lot. Well, I'm sitting there. I was able to release one of the parachute risers. My fingers on my right hand were broken, so I couldn't get that one released. And the chute was just kind of holding me. I wasn't being dragged. And probably from me to Dr. Conger, there's this Vietnamese soldier. He's got his hands outstretched. He's got a pith helmet, olive drab, insignia. And there's probably, I'm going to say, 50 to 200 people behind him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. His eyeballs were about that big around. Mine had to be about that big around. And he was just waiting to see what I was going to do. And I showed him what he wanted to see. I had my hand, I just turned my hands up. He lowered his hands, and the villagers rushed me with knives. I don't think those folks ever saw a zipper, because in about 20 or 30 seconds, they used those knives and they cut me out of my flight suit, my G-suit, my helmet, my torso harness, my boots. My boots had zippers on, but that didn't make any difference. So I'm in the trench. guards holding my shoulders back, and there's this kid in front of me. He's about 14 or 15 years old with a Springfield rifle. Well, one of the people tried to get my ID card, and we were told if you don't have an ID card, you can be tried as a spy. So I slapped this guard's hand, and this kid in front of me, he pops back, you know, and he fixes this bayonet, and he rests it on my navel. This time I'm down to my underwear, and he runs around into the chamber. And I'm thinking about a movie I saw years ago. A Navy pilot, played by William Holden, gets shot down in Korea. At the end of the movie, he gets shot in a muddy trench and dies. And I'm thinking, you know, this is just like that movie. This kid's gonna blow me away. No one's gonna know about it. And not only that, there's no music playing in the background. Well, about that time, old farmer with a goatee comes up and he pops that kid. That's the last I saw of that kid, so thank the Lord for old farmers. They get me all gathered up, and we probably go maybe 50, you know, maybe from here to the building over there. And it's a big bamboo hut. And they sit me down, and as I sit down, there's this young Vietnamese lady, about 16, with the black pajamas, and she's got a pair of rubber sandals, and she's beating me along the side of the face. You know, to be honest, I never felt it. I think I was in shock. And they put a blindfold on me. And for about the next 45 minutes, the rescue planes came by, and there was a war going on. I mean, there was 37 millimeter, 57 small arms, and you could hear the jet engines and all that stuff for about 45 minutes. I'm thinking, guys, go home. You know, they got me. And I found out later that a good number took some battle damage. But anyway, they go away. Take the blindfold off. There's a soldier sitting on a bed, a bamboo bed, and he hands me a cigarette. Well, I didn't smoke, but I took it anyway. And this lady who was beating me in the face with a sandal, she serves me a little Demitasse, a hot tea. You know, so go figure. Well, it's time to go, to move, and we headed to the mountains. So we head to the mountains. The mountains are about 8 miles away, and there was about a half a dozen guards. They all had their rifles, bayonets, old Springfield rifles. Well, we had to go through about a half a dozen villages. And each one of those villages, the villagers come out with their sticks and their stones, and they're trying to beat me up. Well, you're not going to believe this, but those guards crisscrossed their rifles and their bayonets on top of me to prevent most of the blows. In fact, they got beat up more than I did. They did the right thing. So anyway, so we do that about a half a dozen times, and there's no doubt in my mind that if the villagers had their way, they would have lynched me. We make it to the mountains. Sun's getting ready to go down. They served me a meal that was like a canteen cup with some rice and greens. They had some, tasted like a potato, looked like a pineapple, and of course there was a fish head sitting on top of it, and I moved the fish head, and all the people around started laughing. But we did that. Well, the sun goes down, folks, and the trucks come out. And this is probably one of the most demoralizing times I had up there, because we had an admiral show up, I believe it was in February, and he says, you know, we're stopping 98% of the supplies going to South Vietnam. Well, there was a truck every 50 to 100 yards going 5-10 miles an hour at the most, all night long, heading south. They punched out their two headlights, and they put a light on the bumper that was face down. And they went, in our flight cycles, events every hour and a half, we'd get another set of planes. Well, you'd hear the engines, the trucks would stop, the lights would go out, one of the planes would drop his flares. You had 37 millimeters, the orange balls going up from about 5 counties around, and then the second plane come by, drop his bombs, and then they go back to the ship. This lasted 5 minutes. For the next hour and 25 minutes, those trucks kept going south. Obviously, the admiral was wrong. Okay, about that time, one of those trucks, they put me in the truck with 6 guards. We drive south for about 30 minutes. We get off and we start walking to the west. And we walked through a couple rice paddies. Actually, there's some walkways on the rice paddies. We get to a village or a hut, they sit me down, my hands are tied behind my back, I'm blindfolded now, sitting on a 2x4, and my arms started to hurt, or my hands where they had me tied, my wrists. And I says, hey guys, can you undo this or loosen up? It's hurting. And I hear this voice in the background says, do you want to complain about it? And I just kept my mouth shut. About 2 minutes later, they stand me up, untie me, turn me around.